12,000 years of silence ended with a soft hum. The Precursor armor activated, and 40 recruits held their breath. Senior Instructor Pauleth walked between the frozen giants. His gray-scaled hand touched one suit with something close to love. The armor stood 8 feet tall, its surface still perfect after all those centuries. No dust, no rust, no decay. "This is the greatest achievement in galactic history," Pauleth said. His voice echoed through the underground vault. "The Precursors built these suits before our ancestors learned to make fire. We have studied them for 3,000 years. We have never improved upon them. We never will." The recruits stared in wonder. Vorani, Tessani, a handful of humans standing at the back. The vault held over 200 suits, each one a miracle of lost engineering. Danny Reeves wiped sweat from his forehead. His Coalition-issue environmental suit was fighting him again. The fabric trapped heat against his skin. The helmet fogged with every breath. He had complained twice already. Both times, the supply officer told him the suit was standard issue and worked perfectly fine. It did work fine, just not for humans. Pauleth activated the demonstration suit. Blue light rippled across its surface. The armor moved without a pilot inside, showing its range of motion. Joints bent smoothly. The chest plate expanded and contracted like breathing. "Notice the thermal regulation system," Pauleth continued. "It maintains perfect internal temperature regardless of external conditions. The Precursors faced the same challenges we face. They solved every one." Danny shifted his weight. Under his breath, barely a whisper, he muttered, "Mine breathes better than this thing." A Tessani cadet named Nira turned sharply. Her silver eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Danny blinked. "Nothing, just talking to myself." "You think you know better than the Precursors?" Her voice carried an edge. Several other recruits looked over. "No," Danny kept his voice low. "I was talking about my own suit, the Coalition one. It doesn't work right for human biology." Nira studied him for a moment. She was tall and lean, her pale blue skin marked with darker patterns around her eyes, top of the class in combat theory. She had made her opinion of humans clear during the first week. They were newcomers, unproven, possibly a mistake. "Your species has been in the Coalition for 18 months," she said. "Perhaps you should learn before you criticize." Danny just nodded. He had learned a long time ago that arguing never helped. Pauleth finished his demonstration and began assigning armor units to each recruit. The process took over an hour. Each suit had to be matched to the soldier's size and species. Most of the armor had been modified slightly over the centuries to fit Vorani and Tessani bodies. When Danny's turn came, Pauleth frowned at his datapad. "Specialist Reeves, you will receive Unit 77. The instructor pointed to a suit standing apart from the others. "Its power readings are slightly irregular. Our technicians have been unable to determine the cause. Consider it a test of your adaptability." Some recruits laughed quietly. Danny walked to his assigned armor and looked up at it. The suit was smaller than most, closer to human proportions, probably why they gave it to him. Its surface had the same perfect sheen as the others, but something about it felt different, tired almost. He placed his hand against the chest plate. Cool metal hummed faintly under his palm. That night, Danny sat on his bunk in the human section of the barracks. The other human recruits were already asleep, exhausted from training. Their environmental suits hung on hooks nearby, still damp with sweat. Danny could not sleep. His mind kept returning to the armor in the vault, the way it moved, the way it breathed, and the way Pauleth talked about it like a holy relic that could never be questioned. He reached under his bunk and pulled out a small toolkit. He had brought it from home, from his days fixing mining rigs on Dustfall. The tools were old and simple, nothing compared to Coalition technology. But they had never failed him. Danny looked at the door. No one was watching. The other humans snored softly. Outside, the academy was quiet. He stood up, took his toolkit, and walked out into the corridor. The vault was not locked. Why would it be? The armor was sacred. No one would dare touch it without permission. Danny found Unit 77 standing where he had left it. He knelt beside it and opened his toolkit. "Let's see what makes you tick," he whispered. The first panel came off easier than expected. Inside, he found channels and circuits that looked almost organic. Beautiful work, perfect work. But not perfect for him. Danny saw the problem immediately. The thermal system was closed-loop, designed to recycle all heat internally. Great for the precursors, whatever they had been. Terrible for humans who needed to release heat through sweat and open air. He could fix that. He could make small changes, nothing that would damage the armor, just adjustments to help it work with human biology instead of against it. His hands moved carefully in the darkness. Tools clicked softly against ancient metal. By morning, he was back in his bunk, toolkit hidden, armor reassembled. No one knew what he had done. Not yet. 3 weeks changed nothing about the heat. The training grounds of Vorinth Military Academy sat under a pale yellow sun. The gravity pressed down 20% harder than Earth standard. The air tasted like copper and dust. Danny ran with his cohort through the obstacle course. His precursor armor moved smoothly around him, responding to every motion. The thermal system hummed quietly, cycling air through hidden channels. His modifications were working. He was not overheating. He was not drowning in his own sweat. The same could not be said for the other humans. Specialist Yuki Tanaka collapsed at the halfway point. Her armor locked up as the safety systems detected dangerous core temperature. 2 medical drones carried her away while Instructor Paulith watched without expression. Private Omar Hassan made it further, but his movements grew sluggish. His suit vented steam from emergency release ports. He finished the course dead last, stumbling across the line before falling to his knees. Paulith made notes on his data pad. Human recruits continue to underperform. This confirms initial assessments of species limitations. Danny stood apart from the group, breathing normally. His suit had kept him cool. His modifications had rerouted the coolant flow, added microvents at the joints, and installed a moisture-wicking layer he had made from spare fabric. No one noticed. The instructors assumed he was simply stronger than the others. The other humans assumed he was lucky. Only Nira noticed something wrong. She found him that evening in the equipment bay. Danny was cleaning his armor, running diagnostic checks that no recruit was supposed to perform. "Your suit is different," she said from the doorway. Danny froze. "What?" "I watched you during the run. Your heat vents operate on a different cycle than standard. The release pattern is irregular but consistent." She walked closer. "You modified it." Danny set down his tools. There was no point in lying. Nira was too smart for that. "Yes. That is a crime. Precursor technology is protected under coalition law. Unauthorized modification carries a minimum sentence of 5 years. "I know." Nira tilted her head. The silver of her eyes caught the light. "Why would you risk that?" Danny sighed. He turned to face her fully. "Because the armor was killing me. Slowly, but it was killing me. Humans cool down by sweating. We release heat through our skin. This armor traps all that moisture inside. It turns into a steam cooker." He gestured at the suit. The precursors, whoever they were, did not sweat. Their biology was different, so they built armor for their bodies, not ours. And the Coalition has spent 3,000 years worshipping these suits without ever asking if they actually work for everyone. Nira was quiet for a long moment. She studied the armor, then studied Danny. "Show me," she said finally. Danny hesitated. Then he opened the chest panel and revealed his work. The changes were subtle. Rerouted channels, modified seals, a new lining system that pulled moisture away from the skin and released it through controlled vents. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would damage the suit's core functions. But enough to keep a human alive. "This is elegant," Nira admitted. Her voice held surprise. "You understood the system well enough to improve it without breaking it." "I used to fix mining rigs," Danny said. "Big machines, old machines, machines that broke down in bad places. You learn to work with what you have." Nira touched one of the modified seals. The precursors were a single species. We know almost nothing about their biology, but we know they were unified. One form, one design, their armor reflects that. And the Coalition copied that design without thinking about what it means for other species. Yes, she pulled her hand back. I never questioned it. None of us did. We were taught that precursor technology represents perfection. To modify it would be arrogance. Danny shrugged. Maybe, or maybe the precursors would have expected us to adapt. They were engineers. Good engineers build things that can grow. The sound of boots echoed in the corridor. Nira stepped back quickly. I will not report you, she said quietly. But be careful. If Pauleth discovers this, he will destroy you. She left before Danny could respond. He looked down at his armor. The modifications had saved him today. They might save others if he could find a way to share what he had learned. But Nira was right. If anyone found out, his career was over, maybe his freedom too. Danny closed the panel and locked it tight. 1 week later, Pauleth announced the combat simulation. Full environmental conditions, desert terrain, extreme heat. Danny's stomach dropped. His modifications would be tested for real now. If they failed, he would die. If they succeeded too well, someone would notice. Either way, the truth was coming. He just did not know what he would do when it arrived. Sand stretched to the horizon in every direction. The equatorial zone of Vorinth offered no mercy. 40 recruits deployed from the transport in standard formation. Their precursor armor gleamed under the twin suns. Temperature readings showed 53 degrees at ground level. By midday, it would reach 60. Danny checked his internal display. Suit temperature stable. Moisture management active. His modifications were holding. Around him, the others were already struggling. Instructor Pauleth's voice crackled through the communication system. Your objective is simple. A crashed vessel lies 12 kilometers north. Inside is a signal beacon. Retrieve it and return to extraction point. You have 6 hours. Combat drones will attempt to stop you. This is a pass-fail exercise. The cohort began moving. Danny fell into position near the middle of the group, trying not to stand out. 2 hours in, the formation started breaking apart. The Vorani recruits were sweating heavily. Their gray scales darkened with moisture. They were built for temperate climates, not desert extremes. The Tessani fared slightly better, but their pale skin showed heat stress through deepening color patterns. The humans were the worst. Omar stumbled first. His suit's cooling system was running at maximum, but it could not keep up. The internal temperature kept climbing. His movements became slow and clumsy. Keep moving, Pauleth ordered through the comm. The mission does not pause for weakness. Danny watched Omar fall behind. Then Yuki. Then 2 more humans whose names he barely knew. The medical drones collected them one by one, carrying them back to the transport. By hour 3, only Danny remained among the human recruits. Nira moved beside him. Her breathing was heavy, but she was still functional. How are you doing this? Same as before, Danny said quietly. The armor is working with my body instead of against it. The others are failing, even the Vorani. Danny looked ahead. The crashed vessel was visible now, a dark shape against the sand. Maybe 2 kilometers away, close enough to reach. But something was wrong. A young Vorani named Belek had stopped moving. He stood frozen in the sand, his armor locked in a strange position. Steam hissed from every joint. Belek, another Vorani recruit, ran toward him. His suit is overheating. The thermal system is failing. Danny changed direction without thinking. He reached Belek just as the young Vorani collapsed. The armor hit the sand with a heavy thud. Inside, Belek was unconscious. His scales had turned pale gray, almost white. Heat stroke. Medical drone requested, the other Vorani called into his comm. Negative, Pauleth responded. All medical assets are currently occupied. Estimated arrival time is 40 minutes. 40 minutes, Belek would be dead in 10. Danny knelt beside the fallen recruit. His hands moved automatically, finding the emergency release catches on the armor. The chest plate popped open. Hot air rushed out, carrying the smell of burning. "What are you doing?" Nira appeared beside him. "You cannot remove him from the armor. He will die from exposure." "He will die inside it," Danny said. "The cooling system is completely failed. The suit is cooking him." He looked at his own armor, his modifications, the rerouted channels and custom vents that were keeping him alive. Danny made a decision. He opened his own chest plate and began pulling components. The micro-cooling unit he had installed, the moisture management system, the emergency heat sinks he had built from spare parts. "What are you doing?" Nira's voice rose. "Danny, stop." "I can rig a bypass." His hands worked fast, connecting wires, rerouting power. "If I feed my cooling system into his suit, it might stabilize his temperature long enough for medical to arrive." "You will lose your own protection." "I know." The connection was rough, ugly, nothing like his careful modifications. But it worked. Cool air began flowing into Belek's armor, his vital signs steadied on Danny's display. The heat hit Danny immediately. Without his modifications, his suit became the trap it was designed to be. Sweat poured down his face, his vision blurred. "Help me carry him," Danny gasped. "We need to get to the extraction point." Nira grabbed one of Belek's arms. Danny took the other. Together they began the long walk back. The other recruits had scattered. Some reached the beacon. Some fell to the combat drones. Danny saw none of it. His world narrowed to one step after another, dragging the unconscious Vorani through the endless sand. His temperature kept climbing. 105 degrees, 107, 109. He stopped feeling his feet, then his hands, then everything except the weight on his shoulders and the distant shimmer of the extraction point. They arrived last, dead last behind every other surviving recruit. Danny dropped Belek into the waiting arms of a medical team. Then he fell forward onto the hot sand. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Instructor Pauleth's face. The Vorani stared down at him with an expression Danny could not read. "Specialist Reeves," Pauleth said quietly, "you will report to Commander Oreth's office when you recover." Then everything went black. Commander Oreth had a face full of scars. 3 deep lines ran across his gray scales, souvenirs from a war Danny had never heard of. His office smelled like old metal and older anger. Danny stood at attention before the commander's desk. His disassembled armor lay on a table between them, modifications exposed for all to see. Instructor Pauleth stood to the left. His expression held cold disappointment. Dr. Salaven, a Tessani xenobiologist, stood to the right with a datapad in her hands. "Do you understand why you are here?" Oreth asked. His voice was deep and rough. "Yes, Commander." "Then explain yourself." Danny kept his eyes forward. "I modified my assigned Precursor armor without authorization. I altered the thermal regulation system, the moisture management system, and the joint seals." "Why?" "Because the armor was not designed for human biology. It was killing me and killing every other human who wore it. I made changes so I could survive." Pauleth stepped forward. "Commander, this is exactly the arrogance I warned about when humans were admitted to the Coalition. They have been among us for 18 months, and already they believe they know better than 3,000 years of tradition." "I did not claim to know better," Danny said. "I just wanted to live." "You desecrated." "Irreplaceable technology." Pauleth's voice rose. "Precursor artifacts are protected under the highest Coalition laws. No recruit in the entire history of this academy has ever dared to modify their armor." "Maybe they should have." Silence filled the room. Pauleth stared at Danny with something close to hatred. Oreth raised one scarred hand. "Dr. Venn, you examined the modifications. What did you find?" The Tessani stepped forward. Her silver eyes moved across her datapad. "The modifications are crude by Precursor standards, but surprisingly effective. Specialist Reeves rerouted the thermal channels to allow passive heat release. He modified the joint seals to permit microventilation. He installed a moisture-wicking layer that pulls sweat away from the skin. And the results? The suit's overall efficiency increased by 12%. Paulith blinked. That is impossible. The data does not lie, Instructor. Dr. Venn turned her datapad so everyone could see. These modifications did not damage the armor, they improved it. Danny felt something loosen in his chest. He had not been sure his changes would hold up under analysis. Dr. Venn continued, I believe I understand why this happened. The precursors were a single species. Every piece of technology they built was optimized for their specific biology. When the Coalition inherited this technology, we treated it as sacred, untouchable. We adapted ourselves to fit the armor instead of adapting the armor to fit us. That is doctrine, Paulith said stiffly. The precursors achieved perfection. We honor them by preserving their work. Perhaps, but perfection for one species is not perfection for all species. Dr. Venn looked at Danny. Specialist Reeves did what none of us considered doing. He asked whether the armor was actually working for him. When the answer was no, he fixed it. Orith leaned back in his chair. The scars on his face shifted as he frowned. You saved Recruit Belek's life during the simulation. You gave up your own modifications to stabilize his failing suit. Yes, Commander. You could have completed the mission, reached the beacon, earned a passing grade. Belek would have died. Many commanders would say that is an acceptable loss. Danny met Orith's eyes for the first time. With respect, Commander, I am not those commanders. The room went quiet again. Orith studied Danny for a long moment. Instructor, Paulith wants you court-martialed. The penalty for unauthorized modification of precursor technology is severe. Prison time, permanent discharge, your career would be over. Danny said nothing. There was nothing to say. Dr. Venn has a different recommendation. Orith glanced at the scientist. She believes your modifications represent a breakthrough. She wants to study them further, expand them, test whether adaptive armor could work for all Coalition species. Commander, this is madness, Paulith protested. We cannot allow one human's tinkering to overturn millennia of protocol. Can we not? Orith stood. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, and his presence filled the room. I have commanded soldiers for 40 years. I have watched good recruits die because their equipment failed them. I always assumed it was their weakness. Now I wonder if it was ours. He walked to the table where Danny's armor lay in pieces. His clawed hand touched one of the modified seals. You have 30 days, Orith said without looking up. Prove this works at scale. Adapt precursor armor for a full squad of mixed species. If you succeed, we will discuss next steps. If you fail, you will face charges. Danny felt his heart pound. Commander, I am just a specialist. I do not have the authority or resources to. You will have both. Orith turned to face him. Dr. Venn will assist you, so will anyone else you require. This is your chance to prove that humans deserve their place in the Coalition. Paulith opened his mouth to protest, but Orith silenced him with a look. 30 days, Specialist Reeves. Do not waste them. Danny saluted. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Yes, Commander. The workshop smelled like burnt metal and desperation. Danny had not slept properly in 12 days. Pieces of precursor armor covered every surface. Diagnostic screens flickered with data. Tools lay scattered across workbenches. In the center of the chaos, Danny stood staring at 3 suits that refused to work together. Neera sat on a crate nearby, reviewing calculations on her datapad. She had volunteered for the project on day 2. Danny still did not fully understand why. The Vorani suit runs too hot, she said. The Tessani suit causes skin irritation. The human suit works but drains power too quickly. I know, Danny rubbed his eyes. Every time I fix one problem, I create 2 more, the species. Requirements conflict with each other. Dr. Venn entered the workshop carrying fresh data. She had become a permanent fixture over the past 2 weeks, observing everything, recording everything. "Your approach is fundamentally flawed," she said calmly. "You are trying to create 3 perfect suits. The variables are too complex." "Then what do you suggest?" Ven set her datapad on the workbench. "Stop thinking about 3 suits. Think about one framework with interchangeable components." Danny frowned. "What do you mean?" "The precursors built unified armor because they were a unified species. You cannot replicate that for a diverse coalition, but you can build a base system that accepts modular additions." Nira straightened. "Like a vehicle chassis, the frame stays the same, the parts chain." "Exactly." Ven pulled up a diagram. "Core structure handles universal functions, movement, protection, power. Then each species gets custom modules that plug into the core: thermal regulation for humans, pressure adjustment for Tessani, heat dissipation for Vorani." Danny stared at the diagram. His exhausted brain tried to process what she was suggesting. That would require redesigning everything from scratch. "You have 18 days remaining." "It is impossible." Ven smiled slightly. "I watched you rebuild a precursor thermal system with spare parts and mining tools. I am not certain you understand what impossible means." Danny looked at Nira. She shrugged. "I did not come here to watch you fail." He turned to the scattered armor pieces. 18 days, complete redesign, mixed species modular system. It was absolutely impossible. Danny picked up his tools. The next 2 weeks became a blur of work and failure and small victories. Danny barely ate. He slept in corners of the workshop when his body forced him to stop. Nira and Ven took shifts, keeping the project moving when Danny could not. Other recruits began showing up. Belek appeared on day 15, his recovery complete. He said nothing about Danny saving his life. He simply picked up tools and started helping. 2 more Vorani followed. Then a Tessani engineer from the Academy's maintenance division. Then, surprisingly, 2 of the human recruits who had failed the desert simulation. "We want to help," Omar said quietly. "You tried to save all of us, now we try to save you." The modular system took shape slowly. Danny built the base. Frame from stripped-down precursor components. The core was elegant and simple, designed to accept plug-in modules without complex integration. The species modules were harder. Each one required understanding biology that Danny barely comprehended. But his team filled the gaps. The Vorani explained their thermal needs. The Tessani described their pressure sensitivities. The humans talked about sweat and heat and the strange ways their bodies worked. Day 28, final testing. 6 suits stood in the workshop. 1 base frame design, 3 different module configurations, each one built for a specific species. Commander Orith arrived with Instructor Paulith. The commander said nothing. He simply watched as Danny's team suited up. The tests ran for 6 hours. Temperature extremes, pressure variations, physical stress, combat simulation. Every suit performed flawlessly. Danny watched the data stream across his screens. His heart pounded with hope and fear mixed together. Orith stepped forward when the tests concluded. His scarred face was unreadable. "Impressive laboratory results," he said, "but laboratory conditions prove nothing." Danny's hope flickered. "I am deploying your squad to the northern ice fields. A research outpost sent a distress signal this morning. Raiders have been spotted in the area." Orith turned to face Danny directly. "Real combat, real stakes. Your armor will either prove itself or fail." "Commander, the suits are not fully tested. We need more time to—" "You have no more time. The outpost has scientists who will die if we do not reach them." Orith's voice hardened. "You wanted to prove that humans belong here, that your modifications matter. This is how you prove it." Danny looked at his team. Nira, Belek, Omar, the others who had worked without rest to build something new. They looked back at him with tired eyes and steady faces. "When do we deploy?" Danny asked. "Immediately." Paulith stepped closer to Orith. "Commander, this is reckless, sending untested equipment into combat." "Is exactly what the precursors would have done," Orith cut him off. "They were builders. They tested their work in the field, not in safe rooms. If Specialist Reeves is right, his armor will prove it today." He turned and walked toward the door. "Transport leaves in 1 hour. Do not be late." Ice covered everything. The northern pole of Vorinth was a frozen wasteland. Temperatures dropped to 60 below. The wind cut through gaps in the rocks like knives. Danny's squad advanced toward the research outpost. Their modular armor hummed with activity, thermal systems working overtime to keep everyone warm. "Movement ahead," Nira reported through the comm. "Multiple hostiles. They are wearing stolen precursor gear." Danny saw them. Raiders, maybe 20, surrounding the outpost's main building. They had somehow acquired precursor weapons and armor, probably from the black market that traded in ancient technology. "Belek, take your team left. Nira, go right. Omar, you are with me." The squad split smoothly. 18 days ago, they had been strangers. Now they moved like they had trained together for years. The raiders spotted them too late. Danny's team hit from 3 directions at once. Energy weapons flashed in the frozen air. The raiders had numbers, but Danny's squad had something better. They had armor that actually worked for them. The battle was brutal and short. The raiders fought hard, but their stolen precursor suits were failing in the cold. The ancient technology had not been designed for these temperatures. Joints froze, power systems drained. One by one, the raiders fell. Danny pushed toward the outpost's entrance. A raider blocked his path, firing wildly. Danny's armor absorbed the shots without slowing. He closed the distance and brought the raider down with a single strike. Inside the outpost, terrified scientists huddled behind overturned tables. An older Tessani woman looked up as Danny entered. "Coalition military," he said quickly, "you are safe now." The relief on their faces was almost painful to see. Danny turned to check on his squad. Everyone reported in. Minor injuries only. The modular armor had held. Then his own suit beeped a warning. Danny looked down. A crack ran across his chest plate where the raiders' shots had hit. His thermal system was failing. Cold air rushed through the breach, dropping his internal temperature fast. He tried to seal the crack manually. His fingers were already numb. "Danny," Nira appeared beside him. "Your suit is damaged. We need to get you to the transport." "I can make it," his teeth chattered. "Just need to keep moving." They left the outpost together, Danny's squad forming a protective circle around the scientists. The wind howled louder. Snow reduced visibility to almost nothing. Danny's temperature kept falling. His display showed dangerous levels. Hypothermia was setting in. His legs felt heavy, then distant, then gone. He stumbled. Omar caught him before he hit the ice. "Keep going," Danny managed. "Get them to safety." "We are not leaving you." "That is an order." Belek appeared on his other side. The young Vorani grabbed Danny's arm and pulled it over his massive shoulders. "During the desert simulation, you gave up your modifications to save my life. I will not let you die in the cold." They carried him the rest of the way. Danny faded in and out of consciousness. He remembered flashes, the transport's warmth, hands removing his damaged armor, Dr. Ven's voice giving orders. Then darkness. He woke in the Academy medical bay. White walls, soft lights, the smell of disinfectant. Commander Orith stood beside his bed. "You survived," the commander said simply. Danny tried to sit up. His body protested. "The scientists." "All safe. Your squad performed exceptionally." Orith paused. "As did your armor." Danny fell back against the pillow. Relief washed through him. Orith pulled a chair closer and sat. The massive Vorani looked almost gentle for a moment. "I was wrong about humans. I thought you were too soft, too fragile, too new." He shook his head slowly. "I did not understand that soft can also mean flexible, fragile can mean careful, new can mean willing to see what the old cannot." Danny did not know what to say. Coalition High Command reviewed your modular designs. They approved an initiative to develop adaptive armor programs for every species in the military. Orith almost smiled. You changed everything, Specialist Reeves, with spare parts and stubbornness. The door opened. Instructor Paulith entered slowly. His expression was strange, somewhere between shame and respect. I taught recruits for 40 years, Paulith said quietly. I told them the precursors achieved perfection. I told them to honor that perfection by never questioning it. He lowered his head. I was wrong. Danny met the instructor's eyes. The precursors were great engineers, but they are gone. We are still here. Maybe that means we are supposed to keep building. Paulith nodded once. Then he turned and left without another word. 6 months passed. Danny stood in the precursor vault where his journey had begun. He wore instructor insignia now. Beside him stood a rack of armor, each. Suits slightly different, each designed for the species who would wear it. A new cohort of recruits gathered before him. Vorani, Tessani, humans, other species he was still learning to recognize. This armor was built 12,000 years ago, Danny said, echoing Paulith's old words. The precursors created something remarkable. He paused and looked at the young faces watching him. But we made it better, and that is what we do. We take what came before and we improve it. We adapt, we grow, we keep building, he smiled. Any questions? Neera stood among the senior cadets now, helping train the new class. She raised her hand with a grin. Specialist Reeves, mine does not breathe right. Danny laughed. The sound echoed through the ancient vault, filling spaces that had been silent for millennia. Then let us fix it. He picked up his toolkit and walked toward her. Behind him, the precursor armor stood silent and patient, waiting for the next generation to make it better still.